Morning, guys. Today, well, whatever time you're viewing this, we're going to be exploring nature patterns and going to be discussing our next project, which is the nature letters. So just looking at nature and how God created it is just absolutely magnificent, if you ask me. In Romans 1:20 it says, "For since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, his eternal power and divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made, so that people are without excuse." God created us and nature to be so exquisite and so, to be honest, mind-blowing. I think it's absolutely amazing. And if you guys have not taken the chance to just sit and look and think about all of God's creation once, I strongly encourage you guys to do that with this project. He also says in Job 12:7-10, "But ask the animals, and they will teach you, or the birds in the sky, and they will tell you, or speak to the earth, and it will teach you, or let the fish in the sea inform you. Which of all these does not know that the hand of the Lord has done this? In his hand is the life of every creature and the breath of all of mankind." God literally put so much effort and so much thought into creating us as mankind, as well as all the animals, every single plant, every single living creature, every single insect, literally everything that is living and breathing on this earth, God has created and has put so much thought into it. I think it's absolutely amazing. And again, I want you guys to really reflect on this with this project, just the patterns and just the repeated beauty that God has created in nature. So God's nature is amazing. There's so much detail and thought that goes into it. So let's take a look at some of the repeating nature. So let's look at leaves, let's look at like honeycombs, just the repeated elements that we see in nature. So especially leaves, if you ever look closely at a leaf, you'll see all these repeating textures in there. The lines, the repeating that it grows, the growth of it from smaller to larger, just the overall shape of it. There's so many different types of leaves, and those of you that have taken biology and did the leaf project, you know there's how many different types of leaves out there and different types of trees out there. But that doesn't even include the leaves that are on flowers or the leaves that grow like four-leaf clovers or anything like that. Like there's so many other leaves, or like weed leaves. There's so many different leaves out there and different patterns of leaves that I think sometimes we associate just one typical type. But just go ahead, Google leaves once, and you'll see all the super cool patterns that's in there and all the little details. Like, look at how exquisite that is. And then I posted a picture of bubbles, because even though it looks like it's something else, though, but I think it's bubbles. I thought it was something in the ocean, some coral reef or something like that, but it's not. My bad. Looking at flowers and diving into those a little bit deeper, look at the repeating elements of the petals and how they're smaller and they grow to be larger and larger and larger. So this is what we call a radial balance, where it's centered around a middle axis, and it goes around and around that. Same with inside. Like if you dive even deeper, if we look at this picture up to the upper right, looking at the middle of a flower and the inside of it, sometimes we call that pollen. There's pollen inside of it. But just, I'm sorry guys, but this just amazes me how God just thought, oh, let's put this right in the center of this type of flower. Like that's so crazy to me. And then I put a peacock feather on here just to represent an animal with the repeating elements and the beauty of it. Like, I don't even know. Like, peacocks are just absolutely stunningly beautiful. And I would have never thought of that. God thought of that, though. Another really cool one, tree bark or tree logs or the inside of a tree ring. Fun fact, you can tell how old a tree is based off of the rings. So if you look at the ring, so if I'm counting this correctly, this tree is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. It kind of goes on. It cut off the page. But it's many, 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 many years old by counting the rings, which is kind of really, really cool. But just to see the texture and that element, that's how you count how many years old this tree is, I think is amazing. And then when you slice a piece of wood, especially those of you that have like wooden tables or something like that, you can see just like the wave on this wood. Like, I just think it's so cool. And then we have some more simpler ones. We've got snowflakes. I'm sorry, guys, but snowflakes are absolutely beautiful. And did you know not a single snowflake is the same? Every single time they fall, not a single one is the same. There's something always different about them. So I think just the beauty of that is absolutely amazing, and how, I don't even know, like, I'm just running out of words to like say. Pine cones, the repeating element, again, that radial balance around them. And then honeycombs. I think honeycombs are super cool. I did my project with a honeycomb, and so I'll show you guys my example in the later slide, but just, that's how, like, bees think, like, this is how I'm going to make it. Like, bees are super smart, guys. Yes, they sting you. Yes, you might be afraid of them, but to be honest, they're more afraid of you, because they're afraid you're going to ruin their home, which they so mentally thought about how to create a super cool honeycomb. Here's some more. So, oh, that picture turned out blurry. But this is in a coral reef. So not even just nature here, but nature in the ocean too. Sometimes we forget about that. And then cactuses, or what we call succulents. Just to repeat, just like, look at this. Like, growing from larger to smaller, and just, man, God is so good, guys. Believe it or not, spider webs. I don't like spiders, but to think that's how they create their webs, and God created that little tiny insect to do that, but looks super scary. Amazing. All right, but we've got some more, the pine cones, different types of pine cones out there, again, in the inside of flowers. So what in the world are you creating? You guys are going to be creating what I call nature letters. So I figured you guys know how to at least draw bubble letters, or some sort of letters. So quite literally, that's what it's going to be. You must have an outline of a letter to create a shape, and if you don't know how to make a bubble letter, please reach out to me, or Google it, or YouTube it. You're going to be creating 2 letters. These letters should be significant to you. So either it's in your name, or it starts your name, so they're your initials. Or if your name, say, is Katie and you're doing a KT, that totally works as well. But it needs to be significant to you. It should not be 2 random letters that have no clue what they mean. So again, creating 2 letters, and then you must fill the letter completely with a repeating nature element. So, examples can be like tree bark, it can be leaves, it can be flowers, it can be pine cones, honeycombs, snowflakes, really anything in nature. I don't want to see man-made stuff though. So what I mean by that is I don't want to see like yarn, or like, I mean, sticks are fine, but sticks are super simple. Try to challenge yourself with this project because it is a little bit more simpler to do. I don't want to see like fake stuff, if that makes sense. Okay. But try to completely fill it with repeating nature elements. And then it should be fully colored, so there should be no large empty white spaces except for the background. So I'll show you examples of what I mean. Okay. So here are some really good examples. Obviously, you don't have to do a whole saying unless you really want to, which I think they look really cool. Like this one at the corner says, "You smell nice," with the flowers. I think that's super sweet. But this R at the top is exactly what I'm looking for, especially if you're going to do something 3-dimensional and you're going to get a bunch of leaves and then make it into a letter. Awesome. I need to recognize your letters as well. So if I can't see that that is an M or an R or a Y, then you did something wrong, okay? So please make sure that I can actually tell what letter it is, okay? So again, you're gonna be finding these if you're gonna be doing it 3-dimensionally. In this case, you can go out and buy fake flowers to fill it, or you can buy real flowers, because although it's spring and there's some flowers slowly popping up, I know there's not a lot out there. So again, just making the outline of the shape, I should be able to see what letter you are creating. So again, these are all like 3-dimensional examples, but you can most certainly just draw them or paint them or create this digitally instead of finding the actual elements and creating it three-dimensionally. But there's tons of different options. I mean, yes, rocks are technically nature made. So if you want to do rocks, seashells, oh, that was one I forgot to mention. Seashells, which is super duper cool. But I wouldn't necessarily maybe do grass unless that's your last resort to do grass. Okay, but this is a picture that I'm talking about. This is not good enough to fill the spaces. So as you can see, they just slightly outline the bee, but this whole entire space should be filled in to create both B's. And if you want to do something like this where it's an uppercase B and a lowercase b, or you're doing the first letter of your name, so it's an uppercase K and a lowercase k, that's totally fine too. I like that idea. But again, it should be totally filled in. Like, it should be a thick letter that I want to see, not something super thin like this, and you're just taking one strand of leaves. Okay, if I see this, you will get downgraded. So please make sure you're watching my video and following directions. All right, so here's my examples. I used fake flowers that I found at the dollar store. Guys, you can find fake flowers for $1 at the dollar store. So I did a K and a T. Those are my initials. So as you can see, I have my K here, just filled with a bunch of different color flowers, and then there's leaves that makes the stem of my K. And then I took off the leaves of these flowers to create a T. So again, it's repeating these elements. It's repeating flowers, different types of flowers if you would like, and then different types of leaves I have in here. And this is the one that I drew. This is my honeycomb that I painted, and then inside of the K, so I drew an outline first, and then I went in with my pattern. And then you can even kind of, if you like to be like decorative like that and do these really cool looking flowers or roses, but as you can see, it's still repeating itself. So if you do create a flower, those petals are repeating itself around the center axis of the flower. Okay, so if you like to create and do some kind of doodling like that, totally fine. I just colored in a circle in the background, and then I went in with a Sharpie pen to create that rose looking flower. Okay, so those are your options, and here's some more options to kind of inspire you a little bit, but obviously two-dimensionally you can paint it. So again, my example, I painted the T and then I drew the K. You can do both if you want. You can also, with three-dimensionally, actually make the sculpture using straight edges to create the letter and then using it in and repeating these nature elements. I was going to do that, but I didn't have enough time, so I just arranged nature in the letter form, so my flowers in my K form and then the leaves in my T form. And then digitally, obviously you can digitally draw your letters with nature using a drawing app. You can go ahead and add in those flowers or whatever you see. I didn't think of like palm tree leaves. You could, oh, there's the bell. You can use palm tree leaves. Okay, bell. Well, sorry guys. But there's palm tree leaves. Honestly, if you just Google nature, there's so much different stuff that will come up to help inspire you. And then obviously you could create a digital collage with nature and letters as well. Alright, but if you guys have questions, please, please, please reach out. These are your expectations. This is what I'm looking for. This is a probably easier project than what we've done in the past, but still able to let your mind be creative. And I can't wait to see your letters.